In this last section, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the tweaking that we can do to the current project, and we're going to add one more little juice element of a color changing effect. So let's go ahead and take a look at the color changing effect. I've already added it to the folder. The final folder in section 8, you'll see, has a separate version that has a new section here in the update location for the game level. What we're doing here is that we are detecting if the player has the X difference, if there is actually currently a variable for the player, and if so, we are setting a color to one of the objects on the level. So you'll see here now the next circle, the color of that circle is represented by a basic set of information based on how close you actually are to the center. So you can actually see it changing as you get closer, further away. And we have 4 different color sets which are provided at the top here. So we have white if you're far away, then we have yellow, then we have orange, and then we have cyan, and the cyan is only if you're on the exact right pixel. So the way this structure works is it sets the new color, it sets the color for the circle to the color set object 1, which is white, and then it goes through and determines if it should change. So if it's less than 1, so if it's exactly in the right pixel, it's cyan, it's this bluish color. If it's less than 10, then it switches to the next color set. If it's less than 50, then it uses this one. And if it's between 50 and 100, it still sticks it to 1. So this is the basic structure, and then what it does here is it sets the fill color of the current circle, so the circle that's coming up next that we determined here, we set that fill color to one of these new colors. Now we have to use a function here called unpack. What unpack does is it takes a table and it breaks it up into multiple variables. So because a fill color needs 4 variables, 3 or 4, and we're giving it a table, the unpack breaks it open so this function can read it properly. So that's a very basic example of something you can do to add kind of an aesthetic element to your project. You could probably do a lot more of this. You could have the lines change, you could have particles come out of the bar. There's plenty of things that you could do to this effect. What I'd like to look at next is the tweaking of the other variables in this app. So let's go ahead and turn off this debug object. And so now we don't have the red circle. Alright, so we're going to look at tweaking the scoring structure. So right now the scoring structure is 100 is our maximum. So 100 pixels in either direction from the center is the maximum distance. But right now we have it just written in here and written in here, and then over in this X difference we have it based on these numbers as well. So what we're going to do is, instead of having just the number written out here, we're going to go ahead and add that to the file. So what we're going to do is max distance and then set that to 100. Then we're going to replace the 100 here and the 100 here. So now we can change this easily to change the effect of this scoring. So let's say we make the max distance 10. Now you have to be very close to the center to actually get points. Now it's, as you can see, much difficult to actually get points because you only have 10 pixels to work with. So this is a very easy way to change the scoring now, so now you can tweak it as you go. Now this color set, if we wanted to change it as well, we'd probably want to set these to variables based on that max distance. So we can do max distance divided by 10, max distance divided by 2, and then just max distance. So we have a very simple structure now of changing the color based on how far you are based on that max distance variable instead of just a bunch of random numbers. So now let's look at tweaking the line distance. So in the top of the game track file there's the Y distance. This is the distance between the lines. Now if we change this, we actually change how far apart they are, but not the speed at which they move, because the speed is game length. So if we change this Y distance to, let's say, 600, you're going to see the lines are now much longer. They're moving much faster because they still have to get through all of them in the amount of time that we've provided. But they are going to move faster because they have more ground to cover. This also means based on the way this game works, is the lines are now much further spread on the Y value, which means we don't have as many hard angles or hard changes in one direction to the other. We could also try changing it in the other direction. You'll see here now you end up seeing way more dots on screen, and they are moving much slower. So they have much less distance to cover, but they are moving slower, and you can see more of what's going on. So this is a number you can tweak to kind of change the effect of how the game plays. You can also change the length of the level, this game seconds. So you can change this to 30, for instance, and it will then be a 30-second round instead of a 20. Change this to 10 seconds, and this will now play through 10 seconds. And you'll notice the amount of circles is based on the amount of seconds, so there is one for every second. So let's go ahead and take a look at tweaking the art as well. So we can take anything from this final project, any of these art files, and actually change them. So you could take any of these files and replace them. The one thing you would want to make sure of is that you are using the same dimensions, or that you make sure that the item reflects the change in the dimensions. So that's the basics for tweaking the art, and that concludes our current section for the project. In the next section, we're going to look at some of the more advanced items on how to handle some of the other libraries for Corona.